everybody. I would like to welcome you to our panel today. And my co-people, friends, are Reverend Linda, who's I think in Tennessee now, Susan Jarboe, San Diego, Loy, I think we're in San Diego, and Kristine is new here, and I'm not sure where you're from, but I'm thinking San Diego. No, I was wrong. Tennessee. Okay. Tennessee. Hey, so now we have two Tennessee people. Anyway, I'm so glad to get to be here today, and thank you all for joining us. And let's just settle in a quiet space and take a couple nice deep breaths and relax. Give yourself a little break for a few minutes. And I'm going to open with the Serenity Prayer. God, grant me the serenity to accept the things I cannot change, the courage to change the things that I can, and the wisdom to know the difference. Amen. That is just one of my favorite prayers. And today I am using the Oracle deck of 7 energies. And those energies actually coincide with our 7 chakras. So the card that I picked is a deep breath. The key concept in this short reading is a genuine expectation of danger, projection of a threat without substance, flight or fight mode, inability to focus, trusting in the universe as a way to release fear. Fear is asking for your attention and healing right now. You or another are operating from the position of fear. If you also see red flags, you might be headed towards genuine danger. Perhaps repeating a lesson you don't need to repeat again. You can honor this kind of fear by saying thank you and protect yourself by choosing a different path. In this moment, you have all it takes to make this shift. If, on the other hand, the fear surrounds an idea of taking a risk, be mindful. Radical trust and accepting the discomfort of the new is called for as you move out of your comfort zone. Ask for courage to take a deep leap into the unknown, and know that all will be well. But know that all will be well always. Doesn't mean all you have come to expect. Stories from the past may be molding your expectations right now and causing fear based on anticipated hurt. Don't isolate yourself or fall for the false idea that life is too painful and engaging with it should be avoided. How about loving that side of you that is afraid, acting out, and causing all this unnecessary commotion, and drama. You will never be happy if this small part of you controls your life, as it will if you allow it. However, remember to be gentle with yourself and others. Once you let go and relax into your life, everything looks brighter and friendlier. Today, choose love over fear. You'll be amazed when you do. This message today just really kind of like blew me away. I mean, when I first started reading it, it was like, oh, what red flags do I have going off? You know, what have I not let go of that I need to be letting go of? And then as I continued to read, it's like, oh, taking a risk, being authentic, speaking my mind, not getting caught up into drama. It's like, oh my goodness, there's so many opportunities right now to know that all is well and not get caught up into, and we talked about these things, you know, in an earlier get together of the perception I have that something's going to be bad. Instead, it's like, you know, I don't know where I heard this, but it's like if I never ever read a book, listened to a book, I usually listen, I don't read. If I never had any of that, whatever I need to know would show up at my door. It would show up, and I wouldn't have to ask for it. I wouldn't have to anything. It's like everything I've ever learned hasn't really been anything I've planned. It's always been something totally unexpected. And it's like, now is the time to be wear life as a loose garment, as Reverend Linda said in an earlier message, and not have expectations. It's like anything that separates is separating me from the divine. And so if I get too busy up here in the head, it's like just stop and settle in and be still in my heart. Fortunately, I have a couple of cats that can help me with that. I can just be still. I don't have to be busy anymore. I used to have to be busy, going here, going there, out to breakfast, out to lunch. It's like now it's like, do I really have to leave? I really choose carefully what I do and what I don't do. And I heard something really interesting this morning. It's like, you know, there's so much talk about just be in love. Well, it really has nothing to do with romantic love or that. Love is a rhythm. And I thought that was so beautiful. I'd never heard that before. But our heart has a rhythm. And that's where love is found. So, my wonderful panel, what do you have to say?
I can get started. This one is for me a heavier topic because I spent a lifetime with deep fear, like ridiculous over the top fear. It turned out for me that a whole lot of that was food based. I had a problem with wheat. And so once I got that taken care of, then I was able to enter into this process of figuring out how to deal with fears on an emotional and spiritual side, which has been something so entirely different. Um, we talked in another session about perfectionism. I didn't use that actual word, but when you grow up with a family that's all about appearances, perfectionism kind of gets ingrained. And that fear of failing is so big that now tackling it, sometimes that you talked about asking for courage. Sometimes that courage comes in the form of other people, Reverend Linda, encouraging us to do things outside of our comfort zone. And in that, God walks through that person and is that angel to us, which she is. So that's where I am on this. Thank you for this topic because it's a deep one for me.
Thank you, Kristine.
When I was a little boy, I was afraid of everything. And by everything, I mean everything. I was so afraid of everything that I knew that there was a problem with me being afraid. Once I couldn't get out of bed until noon because of the light fixture above my head on the ceiling. Another time I couldn't drink my milk because the ice that was in the glass made a weird pattern and I couldn't drink it. Um, so when you say things like, Karen, when you say things, or when you said, basically say thank you for your fear, I almost wanted to disagree with you because I couldn't figure out what was so great about fear. But I remember that my fear also went to my parents. I was afraid of my mother. I was afraid of my stepfather. I was afraid of my dad at times, even though at that point I hadn't met him very much, a lot. Um, but if it wasn't for me, I would definitely am grateful for that fear because it taught me how to overcome that fear, or at least let my fear be overcome. Um, so I'm really grateful for this topic. Um, it has also taught me to just sit still and be cool, man. It's like um, because of the fact that I am willing to thank my fear in the case of parentage. Alexa, stop. I'm so sorry about that. So because of the fear of my mom and my stepfather, I'm able to realize I was able to realize the truth that the reason why I was treated that way from them is because they were treated that way from their parents. And it's a good way for me to learn how to forgive for my perceived slights. Um, Thank you very much for this, Karen. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Loy.
Well, as others have said, uh, I too have struggled with fear my whole life. And sometimes my parents would try to reassure me about a fear and say, oh, you don't have to be afraid of this, you don't have to be afraid of that. And sometimes that worked. What would have worked best would be if I could have grown up knowing that other people were also afraid. See, I thought I was the only one and that everybody else had their act together. And it wasn't until I was an adult that I realized fear is part of the state of being human and that everybody has fears of various kinds. When I was in my 20s, I was in a bad place romantically and also in terms of employment. And I called up a friend of mine who was wise and I said, do you have anything I could read that would help? And she said, yes, I do. And she introduced me to this book called Love is Letting Go of Fear by a psychiatrist, Gerald Jampolsky or something like that. It's based on A Course in Miracles. And it's very easy to read and it makes a lot of sense. And he talked about we're often stuck between the guilty past and the fearful future. And that's kind of how he would characterize the human condition. And I found that book very helpful. And later I did read A Course in Miracles, and that has its own benefits too. One of the things that we hear about nowadays, we often hear the word anxiety, which to me is a sanitized term for fear. And that anxiety in our culture, at least, I can't speak to the rest of the world, but in the United States, anxiety is increasing. More and more people are experiencing debilitating anxiety. And I'm wondering if that is it a result of we have a lot more to be afraid of nowadays than we used to? Or is it a result that we don't have the coping skills we used to have? And I don't know. But given my own experience with anxiety, I don't wish it on anybody else. And I hope that uh, the people who are in the know and the powers that be can assist with this, because it's a social disease, and that really uh, concerns me. I'll end with I may have said this before. I'll end with a quote from John Wayne, who said, "Courage is being afraid and saddling up anyway."
Thank you. Thank you all
Thank you.
for
Thank
your feedback on this topic and this topic itself. I grew up in terror, and I had to learn to do stuff anyways. I had no idea how to do that until I found alcohol and then later other drugs, which was my coping skill. I could be terrified and find the right combination of chemicals to propel me to do it anyways. It was very much a contributor to my addiction and the path that I took. Not that you have to go that way, it's just how it ended up in my life. In my recovery, the fear didn't go away. I still needed to learn how to do it anyway. And I learned to place faith over fear. I learned to stop visualizing all the ways it could go wrong and start visualizing all the ways it could go right. I'm well known for my love of adventure. I get invited, thank you God, to do all kinds of amazing things because the theory is if it seems kind of scary, let's invite Linda and she'll do it with us. This has taken me zip lining in the redwood forest. It's taken me skydiving, parachuting. It's taken me to become an ordained minister. Facing my fear is like a superpower. It feels that way. When I realize that I create my fears and I can uncreate them the same way, it gives me the ability to make a decision. Am I going to sit here and be afraid of this, or am I going to walk through it and do it anyways? If I sit here and be afraid of it, my self-worth and self-esteem suffer. And that puts me in jeopardy of losing my recovery. If I don't care about myself, who cares what happens? I'll seek the easy way out. To be the person that I want to be, that I was born to be, I need to have the ability to walk through my fears, to face my fears. That doesn't mean I do stuff stupidly. Just like the reading said, I evaluate the risks that I'm walking through and then weigh it out. Is this worth my time? Is it really something that I want to do? And then I take it into who would I be if I did this? And who would I be if I didn't? And I get to choose who's the best me. And that's often my guiding spirit. You know, I give it to God, and if the decision is still there, I make the decision that I'm going to be the most proud of, that I'm going to walk away and say, yeah, I did this or I didn't do this because this is who I want to be today. So I love the topic. I love the idea of just take a deep breath, think it through, and really think about who you want to be and how this will impact you. So thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, Reverend Linda. And I've got a couple of comments. One of them, skydiving. And I remember Linda telling, oh, yes, you really do need to do it. And I did. Of course, that was only a couple of years ago. Mainly what I wanted to comment on is what I heard Kristine and Susan and Loy talking about were those paralyzing fears. Mine kind of centered around hell and burning and mortal sin. But my first major depression was at 39. And it was awful. It took me 2 years to get out of the house after being hospitalized. I didn't think my face would ever work again because it wouldn't work. I couldn't eat. And I'm a compulsive overeater, so I could definitely relate to the early on days of turning to food. Because I didn't know how to be a mom, and I was a mom at 17 years old. It's like, oh, what do I do? Eat. You know. Then the diet pills came. Aha. The answer to prayer. I really did think it was the answer to prayer. The fear and the panic attacks were crippling until Jerry Jampowski came along. So even though I was in therapy after that hospitalization, it was like I needed to listen to something because I was plugged in to a light socket 24/7 with free-floating anxiety and panic. And it's like, I mean, I can talk about those things now. It wouldn't have been something that I could have talked about early on or talked about even at a Al-Anon meeting because I was definitely afraid of God. Because if there was a God, I wouldn't be feeling like this. So then appreciating, like you mentioned, Loy, the fears and all of those things have enabled me to now be able to hear ugly stories from people that have been really abused and traumatized and sold, and be able to listen without judgment and know a connecting point, a video to maybe send. And it's like, Jesus, if all of those things hadn't happened, I wouldn't have those in my bag of tricks. So it's like everything can get utilized if we keep an open mind and not turn to our addictions because they're so temporary. Oh my God, the weight. I have gone up and down so many times. It's like, it doesn't work turning to the addiction because then the guilt comes in and the low self-esteem, and it's like, I've done it again. So, you know, it's in get-togethers like this, and hopefully people that are out there listening will be enabled to know you're not alone. It might be panic attacks, it might be depression, it might be God only knows what, because there's so many really ugly things going on that people are afraid to talk about. But I know at the end of our meeting here, there's a link. You can call the church. You can connect. You don't have to keep secrets anymore. You can join our panel if you have something to say and are ready to talk about that, possibly without judgment, because it might help somebody else out there that's hurting in the same way. So thank you, panel, for such inspiration. And it's like, I don't think we get inspired without having pain. It's not a crash course thing, but it's like roses and lollipops or whatever. Life's a journey, but knowing that we're not alone is the key. See, I thought I was the only dysfunctional family too. I mean, for God's sake. And then 40 years later, you find out that maybe somebody in your neighborhood was also living with a drunk or a whatever. So anyway, follow the links at the end. Let us know if you'd like to come and join our panel. If you've got comments, please let us know. If there's something you want to hear, let us know that too. And thank you for joining us. And thank you, panel, very much. Bye, everybody.
Thank you for joining us, and let's stay connected and grow in spirit. We are on Facebook. Search for Unity Church of El Cajon and follow us and like our posts. You can reach us on YouTube at Unity Church of El Cajon. Please subscribe to our channel, watch our videos, and leave comments which can help us improve. We are on the web at unityofelcajon.org. Email or call our church office to receive our weekly newsletters, which lists all of our activities and opportunities to learn and grow together.